You've seen the pictures, right? Someone with a laptop, feet up, overlooking a perfect beach in Bali. That's the promise of the digital nomad, a lifestyle that feels more possible now than ever before. But what's the real story behind those picture-perfect Instagram posts? Well, let's dive in and really figure it out.
And yeah, that quote really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It captures the appeal perfectly. This isn't just about taking a long vacation, it's about totally reinventing what work even means. It's a promise of freedom, of adventure, and it's a dream that's fueling a massive global movement.
So, let's get on the same page. What is a digital nomad really? It's way more than just working from home. The key ingredients are: 1, you have to work remotely. 2, you're traveling for long stretches. And 3, your income isn't tied to one specific place. Basically, they work while they travel, and they travel while they work. It's a constant loop.
All right, so first up, let's talk about the dream. What's the powerful vision that pulls people into this lifestyle in the first place? What are those big promises that make leaving everything behind seem totally worth it?
When you really get down to it, the dream is built on these 3 big promises. First, you get this ultimate sense of freedom. You can work from the Alps in the winter, a beach in the summer. All you need is a decent Wi-Fi connection. Second, you can travel full-time without having to quit your job or take a huge career break. And third, and this is the one that surprises people, you can actually save money by living strategically around the world.
Okay, so that brings us to the money. I mean, the dream is one thing, but the financial reality is what actually makes it work long-term. So let's take a look at the blueprint for how nomads actually make this happen.
And this is the million-dollar question, right? Earning a remote income is just step one. The real trick, and honestly, the real genius of the whole lifestyle, is figuring out how to manage your money when you're constantly on the move. So how do they pull it off financially? Well, it all comes down to a huge mindset shift. You're not on vacation, you're living abroad. That means you're swapping those expensive hotels for more affordable long-term stays, you're cooking a lot of your own meals, and, this is critical, you're cutting those expensive ties back home, like rent or a car payment. The goal here isn't to fund a 2-week trip, it's to build a sustainable life that just happens to be mobile.
But you know, these daily habits are just one piece of the puzzle. They're smart, for sure, but they're just the surface. There's a much bigger, much more powerful economic strategy happening behind the scenes that leverages the way the world is set up.
And this brings us to the real financial engine of the whole thing: spatio-temporal arbitrage. Okay, I know, it sounds super academic and complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's about strategically using your location in both space and time to your financial advantage. It's not just about finding a cheap place to live, it's about actively playing the global economic game. And this is where it gets really fascinating. Let's break this down. First, you've got cost arbitrage. This is the classic. Earn in US dollars, but spend in, say, Thai baht. Suddenly, your buying power goes through the roof. Then there's tax arbitrage. By being really careful about how long you stay in any one country, you can legally lower your tax bill, maybe by using a special visa or just by not being an official resident anywhere. And finally, there's currency arbitrage. Earning a strong, stable currency like the dollar while living somewhere with a weaker currency gives you this huge, built-in financial advantage. This right here, this is the engine that really powers the whole lifestyle.
Okay, so we've got the dream and we've got the financial engine that makes it possible. But what's it actually like day to day? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the trade-offs that, don't always make it into the highlight reel on Instagram.
And here's the first big reality check. The dream is ultimate freedom, right? But the reality? Well, it's a grind. That freedom has a hidden cost, and it's the constant mental energy you have to spend on logistics, finding a place to live, figuring out transportation, hunting for reliable Wi-Fi. It's a never-ending to-do list. In a lot of ways, managing your freedom becomes its own full-time job.
Then you've got this constant tug-of-war between travel and focus. I mean, the whole point is to go out and see the world, but you still have deadlines. And when there's this incredible new city just waiting outside your door, forcing yourself to sit down and stare at a spreadsheet takes a huge amount of self-discipline.
And finally, let's talk about that dream of saving money. It sounds great, but it comes at the cost of stability. You completely lose the safety net of a normal life. If you're a freelancer, your income can go up and down. Trying to navigate international tax law is a total nightmare. And just figuring out health insurance in different countries adds this layer of risk and stress that a typical remote worker just never has to think about.
So you've got the logistics, you've got the finances, but there's a human element to all this that, honestly, might be the toughest challenge of all: finding your people. your sense of community when you're always on the move. And look, this quote from someone who's lived this life for 6 years, it's just so raw and powerful. It completely cuts through all the glamour and gets to a really profound sense of isolation. When all your friends are scattered across different continents and you miss just the simple rhythm of seeing familiar faces, loneliness can become a really serious, crippling problem. So, how do you even begin to fight that kind of loneliness? Well, it's not passive. It takes real, proactive effort. It's about creating some consistency in a life that's always changing, like joining a weekly language class or a hiking club, so you can actually build relationships over time. It means using apps to find people, saying yes to invitations even when it feels awkward, and sometimes just taking the lead and organizing something yourself. These aren't just little tips, they are essential survival skills for this lifestyle. And then, of course, you've got social media. It is the ultimate double-edged sword for a nomad. On one hand, it's an amazing tool for staying connected with people back home and for meeting new people on the road. But on the other hand, it's a constant 24/7 window into the life you're missing out on. Weddings, birthdays, casual hangouts. That fear of missing out, FOMO, is very real, and it can hit you hard and just make you feel even more isolated.
Okay, let's zoom out for a minute. Because this lifestyle isn't just about one person's choice to travel and work. It has a real ripple effect on the places and communities that nomads visit. And this brings up some really important and sometimes pretty uncomfortable questions.
And this leads us to a really critical and kind of tough concept: digital colonialism. Remember that whole spatio-temporal arbitrage thing we talked about? Well, this perspective argues that when nomads use those global inequalities to get ahead, the effect isn't neutral. It suggests that they can, sometimes unintentionally, act like agents in a new kind of colonialism, taking value from local places without really helping them grow in a fair way.
And this isn't just theoretical stuff. We're talking about real, tangible impacts on the ground. In nomad hotspots like Lisbon or Medellin, you see the influx of people earning high salaries directly leading to skyrocketing rent prices, which pushes local families right out of their own neighborhoods. This can create cultural tension and a feeling that the local culture is being sort of repackaged and sold to a temporary audience. It's the complicated, often invisible side effect of the whole nomad financial model.
Okay, so we've looked at the dream, the money, the daily grind, and even the ethics of it all, which brings us to the big question.
And I think if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that becoming a digital nomad is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Not at all. For some people, it's just doing it for a few months a year. For others, it's a permanent lifestyle. It's a huge spectrum, and figuring out where you fit on it requires a really deep, honest look at who you are, what you want, and how much uncertainty you can handle.
And that really leaves us with a final, bigger question to chew on, one that affects more and more of us every day. As remote work just becomes normal, the line between a regular life and a nomad life is getting blurrier and blurrier. In a way, are we all slowly becoming some kind of nomad? And as we chase this new kind of freedom, we have to ask ourselves, what exactly are we trading for it?